What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. My name's Will, and this week got another fantastic episode for you guys. This week, Xander and I are talking to Finn Melanson about his most recent effort, setting the fastest known time for the unsupported 100-mile wilderness in Maine. Finn, you'll probably know him. He's been on the podcast before. I've been on his podcast. He's the host of the Single Track podcast, which is a much better and much larger podcast than mine. So if you don't already listen to Single Track, go check it out. It's great content. Finn's also from the great state of Maine and has a deep connection to Maine as well as to the 100-mile wilderness. He's a thru hiker and he's run the trail multiple times at this point. He's set the self-supported, which was basically unsupported, a few years ago. I think he dislocated a finger and had to get aid from a passerby, so it was technically self-supported. Then he went back and set an unsupported record, and now he's come back and done the unsupported again this past summer. It was a great time. He ran it in 28 hours and 43 minutes. So Finn, that made him the second person ever to go under 29 hours on the route. And the only other person to go under 29 is Xander. And obviously Xander had full support for his efforts on the 100-mile wilderness. So Finn became the first to ever go sub 29 without any support. Pretty awesome effort. And I think Finn would also be the first to say that there's still quite a lot of time left on the table, as we'll get to in the podcast. So that's exciting as well. And I can't wait to see him go for it again in the future, because I think he will. And, we've seen 100-mile routes in the Northeast get more and more attention. So I hope more people go after this route. Another shout out I want to give before we get to the episode is to Eli Barakian, who's hosting a vertical backyard ultra at Mount Ascutney on November 22nd. I'm still figuring out whether or not I can be there and compete, just scheduling stuff, but if I can, I will be there, and if I can't run, I plan to show up for some part of it. But it sounds like an incredible time. I think it's a great idea for an event. Basically, Eli has lined it up so that it's the same sort of similar format to Bubba's, where you complete one lap per hour. But if you finish 24 hours, then it will be the vertical equivalent of an Everest, so about 29,000 feet of vertical. And I think that's a sick format. I think it's substantially more difficult than the standard backyard ultra course. And so I wonder about how long it's going to go. But if you're looking for something to do in November, look up the Mount Ascutney Vertical Backyard Ultra on Ultra sign up. It's in Windsor, Vermont, I believe, and I think it's going to be an absolutely great time. I think there are already some stout folks who are coming out to throw down, and I can't see how it goes. So shout out to Eli for making that a reality. A couple more things. We got a couple more sponsors, like real sponsors of the podcast, who are going to be joining us next week. So I'm super excited about that, and they're not seltzer, unfortunately, but they're pretty awesome. So I can't wait to tell you guys all about that stuff. And another thing, well, I guess two more things. So one, next episode in 2 weeks is going to be a little bit of a different format. Rather than doing one long interview, I'm trying to do 4 shorter interviews, and I'm interviewing the top 4 people from Bubba's Backyard Ultra. So I think that's going to be a fantastic episode. Can't wait for you guys to listen to that. And because Bubba's was just insane this year, and I think all 4 of those folks are inspiring in very special ways. And then last thing, as you'll notice if you're watching on either Spotify or on YouTube, this is a video episode, and I believe I have figured out the reason I haven't done video episodes in the past, or I think I put out a few video episodes on YouTube and then stopped, is that they've just been very time consuming in the past to try to edit and put together. But I think I have now found a way to put together video episodes without it being arduously time consuming to get them out there. So hopefully this will mark the start of video episodes going forward on Spotify, and as well as hopefully all of the episodes being published on YouTube. Last thing before we get to the episode, let me tell you guys about the sponsor for this week. Last episode for a while with only one sponsor. Let me tell you about Infinite Nutrition. Infinite. It's a total nutrition powder. You mix it right into your water for all of your endurance, hydration, and nutrition needs. I use Infinite on all my big efforts because it's super simple, super customizable. I know I just need to mix one serving of Infinite into my flasks with 500 milliliters of water, and I'm good to go on hydration, nutrition, protein, amino acids, caffeine if I need it. You can put whatever you want in your Infinite, and you don't need anything else. I used Infinite at Tour de Jante. I know big DNF there, but Infinite worked really well. That wasn't the problem. I used it on both rounds of the long trail, both rounds of the 48. It's a fantastic company. They make a fantastic product. So if you are interested in trying out Infinite, head to the show notes right down there. Use and go to their website. Use code from the backcountry, all one word, for 15% off your entire order. That includes their custom mixes. That includes their protein powders, their high fructose blends. Pretty sure it includes everything. So go try them out. They're a fantastic company. You can do a free consult with them to set up the custom blend that's going to work best for you. That's it, guys. Finn, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. A pleasure as always, and can't wait to see what adventure you go for next. And that's it, guys. I'll talk to you in a couple weeks here. All right, peace. One more thing, guys, really quick. I forgot to read off another 5-star review. So if you leave a 5-star review over on Apple, I am obligated contractually to read out whatever you write. So go get yourself your 15 minutes of fame, or more like 20 seconds of fame, by giving us a 5-star review over on Apple and writing a review. High Speed Quads writes, "The best. This is the best FKT podcast out there, even for armchair fans that have no chance of getting their own FKT." That is very nice. That is a more wholesome one, less sarcasm than I am used to from you guys. So in that sense, I'm disappointed. But, next time, the next review is incredible, and I'll save it for the next episode. So enjoy the episode, everyone.
Is like when I dunked my bottle, and I don't know like what level of load you need to be exposed to get something like Giardia, but like if I dunk a bottle in the water, like automatically the cap is getting theoretically contaminated, all that kind of stuff. And I'm having like a little bit of stomach issues right now, like stomach distension and just like weird bloating, and it just feels like a weird pressure on my stomach, which feels like it could be something of that nature. And I'm just like, did I just spend all this time filtering water out there only to get it a little bit, So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a school of thought, because I think that the onset time for Giardia is like fairly slow, and so
a week or two.
It's like, yeah, so like it like kind of pays to take the risk,
right?
If you're fine with getting Giardia in a week or two.
Which, yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of taking antibiotics if I don't have to, but I think the next time I'm probably just not going to filter water, and I'll pay the price. Obviously, with the massive public disclaimer of like, don't do this at home, kids.
Right. Yeah. Like, do your own research.
Yes,
be a free thinker.
Yeah.
I do think though that neck of the woods is like generally pretty safe water-wise.
Yeah, it's not like a super fun site or anything like that, other than some, moose bacteria, beavers.
Yeah. I think that you'd be pretty good. You might like hedge towards, like earlier in the season where there would be more rain, but also this season was super, super dry. I don't know. I think that's the right call. Yeah. But I mean, we just got in the weeds a little bit. Yeah, so you're back in Salt Lake now?
Back in Salt Lake, and here for the foreseeable future. We have a couple small trips between now and Christmas. A lot of it's just going back to see family for the holidays. But yeah, from a work standpoint, March to right about now is insane. And I'm constantly on the road, all that. So yeah, digging into house projects and slowing things down, making plans for next year. I like this time of year a lot. The fall's great.
Totally, totally. Yeah. Do you want to like give just like
Are we live,
a
by the way?
couple
Is
like
this happening?
I think
It's
we are
running.
live. Yes. Do you want to give like a couple reflections on like the summer? Like running wise, media wise, all of that.
Sure. Yeah. Um, Mid-June, we put on our first event here in Park City. It's called Twisted Fork. It was great. Learned a ton. We've totally caught the bug of putting on races. We're going to do way more in the future. We've got a bunch more this coming year in the Salt Lake Park City area. Then headed to Western States, and we did sort of our traditional week of pre and post race coverage. That was a lot of fun. And then July was just sort of like recovering from all of that. And I was trying to put together some training. But yeah, because I mean, we're recording this in late September, but the plan all along was to do the 100-mile wilderness in early August and just like be done with it. So yeah, I tried to put together a pretty condensed 3-ish week training block for an August southbound attempt on the 100-mile wilderness. And I get there, and basically the day before, I'm out there with Chris Shane, because Chris and I are putting together a little film around just like the route in general, and we kind of use my experience this year as the centerpiece of it, but we try to focus on all the trailside communities, the through hiking people, the history of it, etc. And we get there, and I look at him, and I'm just like, dude, the AQI outside is miserable. It's 90 degrees. It hasn't rained here in months. I think I'm setting myself up for failure. Let's just use this time to get some more footage, and I'll do a little training camp on it 2 or 3 days. And then if there's a chance that something opens up in mid to late September, we'll come back and do it then. And hopefully in that time, the air quality clears up, gets a little cooler, maybe it rains a few more times, and I'm in a better position to go for this thing. Because as you know, Will, and Xander, you know too, because you're so deep in the scene, there's very few things that you can control in these unsupported attempts, and at the very least, I want the environment to be as supportive as possible for this, conducive as possible. So yeah, I think in retrospect that was the right call. And then, it was great from a training standpoint, because then I got a couple days on the route. I learned, in my opinion, that southbound is not the way to go. Anyone that has been going southbound, I think you're wrong. And I think Joffrey agrees too. Actually, I had a call with Joffrey, and I was telling him that I was going to go southbound, and he's like, dude, I don't know if that's the right decision. And because it looked so appealing on a map, right? Like the idea that while you're fresh, you can bank all of these relatively flat miles before getting into the Whitecap Range and the chairbacks and that final roller coaster section to Monson. Like it looked like it was the faster way. And reconning it, I was like, hell no. So that was a great lesson. And then went out to UTMB again for similar Western States type coverage. And in our first 3 days there, me and my buddy Jimmy Elam fast packed the course. So that was a really cool experience, because I got to carry a 20-pound pack for 3 straight days, got a ton of climbing and descending, hit some inclement weather. So I figured out like what I should be wearing if that hits me in the 100-mile wilderness from like a rain jacket standpoint, clothes, etc. Figured out nutrition a little bit more. So yeah, I would say the summer was jam-packed. It wasn't perfect training. If you look at like my averages from June onward, I was getting like 40 or 50 miles a week, maybe 10 or 11 hours of training, kind of low. There's a big opportunity there for anyone that comes for this thing next. But it was as good as I've ever had it for my scenario. So yeah.
Dude, 10, 11 hours is nothing to sneeze at. Also, Chris Shane's picks are like incredible.
He's such a good photographer.
It's really, really astounding.
Yeah, and I know you guys have had Chris on the podcast. He's incredible. I mean, part of the reason why I didn't go in early August is because he's just so fun to hang out with. Like I didn't want it just to be this thing where he drops me off and picks me up, and that's that. Like he's a Mainer, and we just had a ton of fun shooting the shit, talking content, talking the New England scene. Because Drummond is the guy in New Hampshire, and I don't know where you would put Chris in this, but he knows a lot, and he knows like that Greenville area. He knows the 100-mile wilderness. He knows Maine. He's all over. So he's super knowledgeable in a Drummond type way, and yeah, it was fun to hang out with him.
Cool. Nice. That seems like a good place to pin things right now if we want to crack things.
Yeah, it
Crack
seems like
cans.
it.
So I've sinned a little bit, and I got a text from Will and Xander 15 minutes before the episode saying, "You better have your seltzer ready." And I was like, "Shoot!" So I had to run out to the gas station, and all they had was Arnold Palmer's. So I've got a canned Arnold Palmer.
That's
Dude,
great.
Utah gas stations have no seltzer? That's insane.
Xander, what are you rocking today?
I'm rocking the raspberry lime spindrift tall boy version, courtesy of work.
Wow. I was Xander was playing like he wasn't gonna bring anything, and I was pretty upset about it.
You said you were going to kick him out.
Yeah, I would have.
I know, it's all a joke.
As always, I'm rocking the Hannaford brand cranberry lime. It's a staple of the podcast. They are a sponsor. They do pay me heavily. Yeah.
Sure.
Can I hijack the interview with a question for you guys?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So I was privy to a text conversation between Will and Chris and Xander. I'm sure you've been a part of this as well at times, but one of the things that Chris and I were lamenting was the fact that he couldn't be there at various points in the wilderness while I was on this journey, because we're making this film, and because we wanted to respect the ethos of Unsupported. And from what I understand, it counts as support if Chris is out there filming things, right? But we were thinking about it and how silly it is, because there are so many things that I have the permission to do out there that are totally supported. For example, I have a Garmin InReach, I have my phone, and I can use that messenger function to text back and forth with my wife, friends, Chris. If I want to get weather updates, I can get that. If I need emotional support, I can get that. If I need any just like advice, I can get that. So it's crazy that there are things baked into the Unsupported rule that are so obviously amazing levels of support that you're allowed to do, but you can't have this otherwise like silent filmmaker out there capturing cool footage,
Yeah. I have lots of thoughts about this.
Will has been a keyboard
in
warrior.
my opinion, we should ban, I think, and again, the next time I do this, because there will be a next time, from what I understand, the person who holds the record gets to establish some sort of like ethos to it and cool rules. If I'm able to do this again, and if I get to set the record, I do want to do it with no communication. I think that there should be no communication between you and anyone on your crew, if you have a crew or a family or whatever, unless you're about to drop, unless there's like you're in like dire physical circumstances and you need to get like extracted or whatever, or you're just letting people know that you're getting out. Because I think that is, and again, I benefited from that. Like I probably sent 6 or 7 messages out there at various points while I was out there. So I'm not saying I didn't do it, because I totally did, but that doesn't feel unsupported to me,
Yeah, the like extreme example of this is that there's decent coverage in the whites in a lot of spots. You could do an unsupported whites 100 being on the phone with like your partner or your parent or your friend for like 80% of the time.
Well, let's take a real life example. When I did the unsupported long trail, like my mindset was I'm going to take advantage of like the unsupported rules as much as I possibly can to maximize my time. And I had Xander running my spreadsheets the entire effort, and we were texting back and forth multiple times per day. I was getting updates on my splits, how I was doing, and yet, like you said, there can't be a silent person with a camera out there. There can't be a remotely placed camera with a person with, even if Chris is 2 miles away and he sets up a camera on the trail, like that's not allowed. Chris can be 10 miles away with a drone in the air that you don't even know is there, and that's still support. Like, how crazy... the reason this came up was because Allison from FKT, who I absolutely love, she's one of my favorite people on the planet, she was doing a podcast with Jeff Garmeyer, who just set the self-supported Appalachian Trail FKT, taking down String Bean's amazing time, and reading between the lines of their conversation, I get the impression that maybe there wasn't as much publicity or sort of stoke around breaking this effort that they thought there was going to be. And so they were questioning, like, why is this? Why is it that self-supported and unsupported efforts don't get the same buzz? And the answer seems so obvious to me, that you're essentially, like, unless you are a unique person like String Bean, who can be his own videographer and do one of the most impressive FKTs we've ever seen, they essentially ban you from sharing any good media about your effort. So, like, obviously there's not going to be as much buzz about it if people can't see it.
100%.
Check out Will's comments on Jeff's video.
My comments were very thoughtful and nice.
They were great.
Do either of you know the reason why digital communications are allowed?
I believe it's for safety reasons that they don't ban it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, just checking in with someone outside the route is considered like a safety protocol, even if you're doing okay. It's just like an update, like, hey, I made it to this checkpoint, feeling good.
I guess so. That is my understanding. Because it's really hard to draw the line between, like, okay, you can text someone if you're doing well, but or you can't text someone if you're doing well, but you can text someone if you're not doing well, and, like, but I mean, well, an easy way you could get around that is to say, okay, you can only text someone if you're dropping, and at that point it doesn't matter. But I think it's just hard to police. If you either have to ban it or not ban it. And I get why they wouldn't ban it, but I would honestly go the other way. Like, I would make it more. I think the question is, like, do we want to maximize the, like, purity of the unsupported nature, or do we want community stoke, and do we want the sport to grow? Because, like, most people who are out, I guess maybe unsupported 100-milers are a little bit different, but thinking about something like the AT, the self-supported multi-day routes, in my opinion, are mimicking through hiking more than anything. They're not really made to be, like, all by yourself, can't talk to anyone, like, whatever. And on a through hike, like, your family can come out and see you, and people probably aren't going to run with you, but, like, people might meet up with you for, a drink in a parking lot somewhere. I think that stuff should be allowed. I think it takes away from I don't think it takes anything away by allowing that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's very, like, hut traverse rules, right? Like, you can get the self-supported, like, label, even though you take stuff from the huts. Obviously, you talk to people from the huts. You're allowed to have, like, a pacer, because that's how it's always been done. I think the analogy to the through hiking experience, like, makes a lot of sense. Would you only cabin that to, like, things like the AT, PCT, CDT, or would you extend it to, the things like in 3 days to a week long as well?
In my opinion, unsupported, I think it's really tricky to, one thing that FKT that I really feel for FKT on is it's really difficult to make nuanced rules that, fit a blanket set of routes. So I would just make it so, like, I would my idea was change the self-supported rules so that you're allowed to have spectators but no support. And that would sort of solve the problem of like the 3 to 4 day things, because most 3 to 4 day things are raced unsupported. And so if you wanted to keep unsupported as, but again, like, I mean, that sort of brings us back to this conversation of an unsupported 100-mile wilderness. That you want to share stuff with the world, but then then you could just run a self-supported 100-mile wilderness,
exactly.
And maybe that's the way people would decide to run it, and unsupported could be for, like, the freaks who just want to be by themselves.
Would getting filmed fall into self-support, or would it fall into supported?
Well, currently it would fall into supported. I'm saying I'm saying to change the self-support rules to allow spectators, and that would allow film.
I'll say this: as it stands currently, I'm increasingly disenchanted with both with the extremes on both sides of supported and unsupported. So I'm getting a little bit distasteful towards the extreme forms of supported, where you're like crew maxing to the absolute extreme and the athlete has basically been reduced to just the athlete. Like, that is incredibly unexciting to me.
Or a race car, if you will.
Yeah, race car, if you will. Yeah.
Or a baton. I think baton's the word that John Kelly used.
Yeah, the baton, exactly. Yeah, that is or maybe it's just a totally different sport, you know. And then also the letter of the law extreme form of unsupported too is a little bit disenchanting to me as well, because yeah, I think there's a lot of value in storytelling and getting the word out about these routes and the impact that they can have, not just on people that are pursuing FKTs, but they just want to get out and through hike this section or move to the area, whatever. So, but then you get into, I mean, gosh, Xander, you just got out of law school. Like, we're getting into like all these like constitutional law arguments, right? Like, you can take the 14th Amendment and apply it to anything these days, right? Like, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I think Will's right that like it's like FKT like wants to create like pretty bright line rules because they're easy to administer. But I think that like the letting like the self-supported category like be this like nuanced like route specific like label like it is for the hut traverse like is like a really interesting step, because it allows for both of those extremes to be pure in their own way, right? Like, maybe that's not like the pure like hiker style or whatever, but it does say like you as fast as you can go, or like as unsupported as you can go. And then like there's a lot of gray area for like style nuance in the self-supported category. So maybe that's the future.
I actually, it made me think while you were saying that, like, I think one of my sort of fundamental complaints about the system right now is that there isn't enough of a difference between self-supported and unsupported. It's like it's basically just the same thing, except in one you can cache stuff, and that's it. So I like the idea of there being a bigger difference between self-supported and unsupported, and maybe like putting some wiggle room in there that that can go from route to route.
Yeah.
So why, Finn? Why do you feel disenchanted with like the like crew max like fully supported thing?
Because, and again, it just comes down to personal preference, but I like when these efforts for the runner are multidimensional and they require resources that are not just based on physical training. So if it also becomes, I think these things should include an intellectual endeavor component to them. I think you should have to be problem solving and not outsourcing that to, like, you shouldn't be outsourcing your brain. I hate to use absolutes. It's just not as interesting to me.
I think that's a totally fair point.
Yeah.
Take away the problem solving thing.
But again, I think like if I'm poking holes in my own argument, what I'm really distinguishing between is the fact that I see supported attempts as team sports, and it's almost like a team award, and I see unsupported attempts as individual feats. And in a lot of ways, increasingly, I mean, people talk about ultra running being a team sport all the time. Like, if I talk about what I did at Cocodona this year, I am under no illusions that it was like me that did it. Like, it was very much my crew and my pacers and myself that got me to the finish line as we did. You've heard Tara Dower talk about this too. Like, when she set the ATFKT last year, she was very hesitant to say it was like, she didn't really put like personal pronouns around the record. It was kind of like, or she did, but it was like we got it, Chump Change got it. It was like a team sport thing. And so I just think, right now, you're catching me at this moment in time, I'm interested in these things as they relate to like individual performances as opposed to team sport performances.
Guy hates team sports.
This is reminding me going back to like why I'm more interested in self-supported than supported is when you get into the supported category, there are some privileges that people have just based on, for example, how well connected they are in the sport, where they can, like, they just have the superior ability, hands down, to assemble the level of support they need to crew max. You know, like you look at someone like John Kelly, rightfully like beloved in the community, right? Like he's just the people's champion. From what I could tell, there was like an overflow on each section of the AT of support for him. Like people like were like doing everything they could to make it possible to come out and pace, crew, whatever. And I can just see a lot of candidates for this trail who are maybe even more physically and mentally talented than John Kelly, but they could never get to the level of support than him because they don't have the same audience, they don't have the same fanfare, connections, etc. So I think that's why, like, that's one of the many reasons why I like sort of the purity of self-supported in the AT context, because I think it's more democratic and it invites more people into the process who the support part isn't like a feat of finance or popularity, connections, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, the finance part is another thing about the supported stuff. Like I've done the math on a supported effort, and if you just like bare minimum cover the cost of your immediate, cover the food and logistics cost for your immediate crew, I don't think you can really do an AT FKT for less than like $30,000 supported, unless other people are willing to eat the cost for you,
Yeah.
Which is,
I mean, Carl Meltzer spent like $100,000, and that was 10 years ago. So
that's
just for
crazy.
inflation.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of that sidebar. We can get back into it. Xander, come up with a way to get us back in.
Well, I got one.
Well, go for it.
I got one. I think we should celebrate the fact that earlier this year, you guys put together this list of sort of like the premier routes in the Northeast, and the 100-mile wilderness, I think, made it into the top 5, which is really cool. And I mean, to the extent that can you guys talk about just like the responses you guys got for that, and like the voting process, and I don't know, like the number of people that threw their weight behind this route, for example?
Yeah. I can't even remember like why it came up, like probably us ranting to each other about like just the setup. And I feel like at the time we were like talking with more people at FKT, but we like totally self-designed like a Google form survey and sent it out to like people that had set FKTs in the Northeast. I think we sent it out to like 60 people maybe, and got like 40-ish like responses.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right, Will?
Yeah.
And we asked them to rank their top 20, which felt like a lot. But we also wanted to like make sure that a lot of routes like had a shot at being like counted, right? Because we kind of knew what the top like 3 or 4 were going to be, and so if you were only going to do 10, it didn't feel like enough. People I think found it hard to like split hairs between like 16, 17, 18, like those ones. But it was really interesting to see the responses. Not many people, did like gamesmanship where they put like their own personal project at number 1.
Some people did though, which was, I know who you are.
Yeah, why was the Miles knob loop so high up there?
The Miles knob loop ended up not making it, which I was very happy about.
Yeah. Most people I think like did like a really like honest, like this is what I like and what I think the consensus is. So things were really like the top 10 I think was really pretty like steady for everybody. Like the order was different for different ballots, but the top 10 was like very, very stable.
And just methodologically, the way we scored it was, okay, you give us your 1 through 20. number one gets 20 points, number two gets 19 points, so on. And we just added up all the points for all the routes, and whichever 10 routes had the most points got those were the top 10. So I think the surprising part for me was we expected like our if you want to give some limitations to our survey, it's very White Mountains heavy because that's our social circle, and we did outreach to find some people in the Adirondacks and in the Maine community as well who who had said FKTs, but it was definitely like White Mountains heavy. But which is why it surprised me that the 100 Mile Wilderness like rose above that. So we saw, I maybe would have expected like the Great Range to be a little higher, but the 100 Mile Wilderness was, tied with the New Hampshire 48 in a White Mountains heavy pool of people. It was ahead of the Mahoosic Traverse. It was ahead of White's 100. So people really like the 100 Mile Wilderness for whatever reason. I think it captivates people's imagination. I couldn't understand why.
Xander, I think Xander, you said it. It's the perfect theater to race 100 miles in Maine. And I think that the 100 mile, if you look at the entire Maine AT, I believe that the 100 Mile Wilderness picks almost every single element from the entire 280 miles and compresses it into that 100. You've got some big mountains, you've got some of those low-lying bogs, you've got those passes across lakes and ponds, those like weird gorges and falls. You got the view to Katahdin. It's everything,
Yeah. I think that, it just makes you be very good, or at least competent at basically everything that you could ask of a trail runner, like on the East Coast. Yeah. So, okay, why was Southbound not the right choice?
I mean, I'm going to need to workshop this answer with you guys because I'm still trying to figure out why. I just think that A-Ball Bridge to Joe Mary Road is so much more incredibly difficult than what you are seeing on a map. It is just, it's like every single year that section of trail gets increasingly more eroded. There are no free miles. It's incredibly busy underfoot. You've got all of these like super high off the ground hanging root systems. You've got all these glacial erratics. You've got a bunch of just like rock gardens. Like it looks flat, but like you'll be gaining like 10 feet and then topping out and then dropping 8 feet. So like it's really hard to gain momentum. And even when you're fresh, like I went and did 2 days on this section on fresh legs, and like it was a challenge to run 4.5, 5 miles an hour fresh. Like it's just not a given that like you're going to be able to run that section smoothly. And so I think I just reached the conclusion that I would rather, like, I think that the gains that I would get running that section fresh were way more marginal than I thought. And I might as well go beat myself up in the chairbacks and the Whitecap range and then just like survive it, and that just became so evident as soon as I went out there in the day and did 2 days on it.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's sort of a grass is always greener thing.
But you've run it so well. I mean, even like 75 miles in, what you've been able to do in that Joe Mary Road to Nessuntabon section is incredible. And I've now tried it 3 times and I never get better. So,
Well, I think that like I always felt that northbound was the right call because I could default to it. I was confident that I could default to a decent running pace. And so, which is like kind of the flip side of the argument for southbound is that if you're a really strong hiker, you feel like you can always default to say 3 miles an hour for the last 30 miles. Right. And so like you can play the game either way. I think that if you're like a run heavy person though, like you should just do the northbound because like you can count on running there. But I think it's really hard. Will is on an island that the last 40 miles are not that difficult.
Really?
I think there's probably 10 hard miles in the last 40 miles, in my opinion.
Where are they?
Like right before the 10 miles before Nasantaban and like
Yeah.
up to Nasantaban.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree that they're the 10 toughest, but I also think, for example, the last 6 miles to A-ball suck.
It sucks because you're 90 miles in, but it's runnable. Like it's downhill. It's I don't know. I've run that section. I mean, I was pacing, but I've run that section with Xander so many times at this point. It's like it is very runnable.
Yeah.
It's just that part before Nasantaban is the only section where I've gotten to it, and I'm like, man, like this is so technical that it's like I'm not on fresh legs. I don't know how smooth this running would be. It's just like so rooty and garbage.
I think you guys are probably better at running through choppier terrain than you give yourselves credit for, and you have really good proprioception. And I think the biggest realization I had this time around was, and again, this is just more of a take, I don't think that the last 40 is a runner's route. I think it's a route for someone who is just good through choppy terrain. Because I think it's more challenging than the first 40, like by far. But that's just me. Like, I listened to you guys talk after Xander's 2023 attempt, and like Xander, everything you said about the chairbacks was spot on. There is actually so much running that you can do in there. Like once you get on the once you summit Barron and you get on that ridge, it's so runnable. Same thing with the Whitecaps, except for the 1-2 punch of Gulf Haggis to West Peak, which I actually do think that's the toughest climb on this. Gulf Haggis, you think you're floated, boom, and then to West Peak, it crushes you. But there's also a ton of running on that ridge too. So like there is actually more running. There is more less penalizing running than people think in the first 40. But I think you need athleticism in the last 40, not just running ability, but like athleticism. And if you don't have it, that's going to kill you.
Yeah, I also think like pacing kind of Will's experience, like pacing me, I think kind of obscures the difficulty in the last 40. The 10 miles in front of Nasantaban guaranteed are just like difficult. But otherwise, there are a ton of spots that break your rhythm for like a second or two that sort of force you to stop and start, that when you're pacing, you don't really realize like that's taking a lot out of you. When you're 70, 80 miles in, like that stopping and starting just sucks so bad. And I think that's like what that feeling of stopping and starting is like what attaches in people's minds as being difficult.
I think that should be the clip. Like you need to practice convincing yourself to restart, and that you should restart. It is the correct call to keep going instead of like getting in this rhythm like, I'm just going to hike 3 miles an hour. Like it's that mental fortitude to like restart again. I think that's spot on.
Right.
I don't do that well.
So what could help is doing Carolinas.
Stop that.
Tell me about this.
I'm not even kidding. The Carolina is a workout from Will's like high school soccer coach. It's basically like an elongated like suicide that you would do in basketball. But it's like sprinting and then stopping, waiting 2 seconds and sprinting back just a ton of times.
I can send you the full workout. It's essentially like I'm forgetting the exact. It's like 16 times 20, 14 times 40. This is all yards. 10 times 60, 8 times 80, 6 times 100. But yeah, then but you're doing these sprints, but then at the end of each sprint you have anywhere between 3 and 10 seconds to rest before you do the next sprint. And so it's just constant death.
It's like aerobic intervals kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, to anyone that's listening that's interested in making an attempt on this route, the last 40 invites so much complacency, and you have to be eternally vigilant. And if it takes Carolinas, do the Carolinas. But in my ultra running career, I've never been in a race or on a course that has just like tried to convince me to just like walk, you know, like because I'll give you guys the spark notes of this run. It was the most otherwise uneventful FKT attempt I've ever had. Nothing really went wrong. Energy levels felt great. Like I felt like I paced it pretty well, but I just got to that back section, and I guess I did run it maybe an hour and a half faster than I did my last time, but like it was just the complacency trap. It was like, oh, like I can totally take a little bit of time here. Oh, I can like take my foot off the gas and walk this section, or oh, I'm going to stop at this water source and make sure I get 4 bottles instead of 3, and that'll be good.
Sure.
It was just vigilance. I cannot overstate that enough. Be vigilant on that section. It's a trap.
Yeah, I think to me it always after an Unsupported, it just always feels like purgatory to the rainbow ledges, and that's when I feel like this feeling that you're describing. It's like it catches up to you, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna finish. I just want to walk there.
Like going up to Rainbow Lake and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing Xander mentioned that made me think, you know, northbound being better than southbound was like you said, Xander, if you're a strong hiker, you can default to 3 miles an hour going southbound, and like that might be a reason to do it. But I also think that that limits what you can, like I don't think there's any major gains to be had on the record with that strategy. Like if you walk in the last 30 at 3 miles an hour, even if you feel strong, I think that's still 29 hours.
Yeah, you reminded me, I'm thinking about the math in my head. Like there was a part of me maybe 75 miles into the attempt on Monday where I was like, if I had just burned out as hard as I could for the first 60 miles to Joe Mary Road, like if I had somehow done Melanson to Joe Mary Road in, I'm trying to do the math here. Like I almost thought there was a case to be made of getting to Joe Mary Road in like 13 hours and then having 36 miles left there. And just again, like I think I've done it enough times where even at our worst, you can like 3 mile per hour it in, you know? And like there's 26 or 27 hours right there, if you're diligent on stoppage time. And again, like if you look at my Strava,
that would be the trick.
2 hours and 10 minutes of stoppage time, it was ridiculous. It was just me being stupid, like sitting, I don't know. So, but I think there's a case to be made of like, if I did this, when I do this again, like leaning more into the burning yourself out and just like treating it like the finish line is Joe Mary, and then just like walk of shaming it in. Giving up on
no way.
To optimize the last 36.
There's no way.
I think that would be, if I did that, I would find it almost impossible not to have like 4 hours of stoppage time on the, you know, while I'm walk of shaming it in.
Yeah. So how did it happen that you spent like so much stoppage time? Like we saw you at West Branch of the Pleasant, so like the 30-mile mark, and I saw it ping there once. I was like, okay, sweet. Like he's about to head up. And then 20 minutes later, we saw it ping there again. And I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think it was just like, I think one of the things that I didn't do well that I would advise people to think about for when they go do it is if you know you're going to stop at a certain point, or if it's a critical juncture, whatever, like with the West Branch of the Pleasant River, even on the lowest level water year, you're getting your feet wet. You're going across that thing, you're going to get your feet wet, so you take off your shoes, et cetera, if you want to. I would advise in those like 2 to 3 miles leading up to that critical juncture, like go through in your head exactly what you need to do there and just have that dialed and then execute as fast as possible. My mind wasn't in that place when I got to the West Branch, and it was more just like, it was very much ad hoc of like, oh, okay, I'm here and I'm going to take my shoes off, and now I'm going to take some time to rummage through my pack and put trash in these bags and like refill like my front pockets and stuff like that. It really wasn't well thought out or like well positioned. And so I think it just comes down to like intentionality with each stop. And it got even worse in the dark. Like I think because I was so unsure of the water sources, I was stopping as often as possible to collect water, even if I
Hmm.
didn't really need it. And then I would find an excuse to like tinker with my pack a little bit as well, move stuff around. And so, yeah, I think on the next time, it would just be more intentional about exactly when to stop, where to get water, and just to have a really well thought out plan each time. I was telling you guys offline, or maybe it was online, I'm not sure. I don't think next time I'll filter water because that is also such a time suck. Like I had one filter cap on one of the hydro flasks, and I'd fill up the bottle, and I would squeeze it into another bottle, fill up again, squeeze to another bottle, fill up again, squeeze to another bottle, and that takes time, especially when you're like pulling from, for example, the West Branch, which is not flowing fast. It's like still water. It takes a lot.
Hmm.
It takes you're basically at most filling up half a bottle before filtering it out again. And from like the East Branch onward, it was the same thing. A lot of like not fast moving sources, and so that was a huge time suck. And so it just adds up. Like you guys just told me it was 20 minutes at the West Branch, which I believe you, but wow, it felt like 7 minutes. So I think losing
Hmm.
track of time is another thing out there. Like time um is like almost not real. Like you think everything is moving slow, but it's all happening so fast.
Yeah. Did you did you like make splits on your watch for those stops or?
I didn't. But the one thing that I did do that was super helpful, and I'll do it again. I had one of these like Sunto watches, and I uploaded the route, and then I also marked waypoints on it. And so instead of being fixated on A Ball Bridge, my watch face would show, if I was at the West Branch of the Pleasant River, 10.3 miles to Whitecap. 8 point, as I was making
Yeah.
progress, 8.3, 7.3, 6.3. And so
Yeah.
I was doing a great job at breaking the route up into manageable chunks. And each of those waypoints felt like its own finish line.
Hmm.
I think the next thing that I could have added to that was waypoints for stoppage. And I actually had a function on my watch where it was supposed to measure non-moving time, but I realized after the fact it was only going to capture that if I paused my watch. And I never
Mm.
paused the watch, so it wasn't collecting that data. So I never knew until after the end of the run how much elapsed time versus moving time I had.
Sure.
And I think
Yeah.
if I had seen that data accumulate, I would have been a lot more mindful with subsequent stops in the second half for sure.
Yeah. I found so I would split my watch like when I arrived to each like aid point.
Yeah.
And I did find that very motivating, seeing it like because you literally get to see like, oh, I say hi to this person, and it takes 30 seconds, right? And it just adds up, and like it's harder with the unsupported thing. But
It's insane.
say you did filter water, what do you think is like the minimum stoppage time that you need?
To filter, it really depends on where you're collecting from. Like there's that spot, I think it's just before the chairback gap lean to in the chairbacks there where it's a stream, but it's kind of like running downhill and moving pretty fast. Like
Hmm.
there, I could collect in probably 2 minutes. But at the West Branch, it was just how many times I had to dunk the bottle to get enough. And that took, 7 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes. So it really depended on where I was drawing from, how fast the water was moving. Sometimes I would get to a spot and I would hit it with my flashlight at dark, and I would think that it was a good spot, but then I would like do a scan around after taking my pack off to like pull bottles out, and I'm like, oh, actually, this place kind of sucks. And I'm looking at my AWOL guide, and I think that if I go like 2 miles down, there's like a piped spring here, so I'm gonna go check that. So there's also a lot of like false starts and false stops.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you just like have those moments where like you stop and it was a wasted stop, and you like look up and you're like howling at the moon. You're like, what am I like? This is a purgatory.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I've this was again. I am not like I feel like when I talk to you guys are the logistical wizards. You're the like sort of the engineers of the route, and I get a ton of inspiration. And in my own world, this was the most logistically and like pack wise and nutrition wise prepared I've ever been for this route. I'm more of like an artist. Like when I'm out there, the inspo that I get is like, oh, I'm on Columbus Mountain, and don't you know this is where like Walter Green painted the first white blaze on the entire main AT. Like that's what I draw inspiration from, and it's less so the gear and like human against nature type stuff. But like, I'm obviously, as I try to take time off this thing, I'm increasingly appreciative of your perspective and how critical it is. And so, yeah, like I need to have way more, not only more intentional stops, but I think they need to, like, the stops need to be predetermined, even for unsupported and less ad hoc in the future. Like, I just need to know, even before the start of this thing, that like the East Branch of the Pleasant River will be a stop, full stop. Stopping at the Potty Wadajo Spring, that's a stop. But like, don't make it up as you go, because there's just a momentum hit there for sure.
Yeah, I think that is super smart. I think it's something that Will has done in the past. I guess not for like logistic stuff, but for sort of like what's coming on the trail. Like you could create like the laminated note card, right, with like your checklist of things that you're allowed to do and things that you're not allowed to do, like at the stops.
String Bean, when he was doing Barkley, he keeps one of those like quarterback arm sleeves on his right arm, and he throws an index card in, and it has all of his critical information for what he's doing on each lap. And I think you could probably apply that to here.
That's actually electric.
Absolutely.
I never thought of that. Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff really does save time. Like at Tor, before I dropped, like during day 2, during the second day, I was like making my way back up through the field, but I was like pretty severely limited in how fast I could move because I couldn't breathe well. But like I wasn't like I worked like through that second day. I worked from like 45th to like 22nd. But I was like not moving faster than anyone. I was just, I had note cards written out of what exactly I needed at each refreshment point. And people would spend 10 minutes in each refreshment point, and I would spend 35 seconds at each refreshment point. And like, that's how I was passed. Like, I didn't pass anyone on trail. It was all in aid stations. So I think like that logistical stuff saves so much time.
Yeah. Do you, and I'll throw the same question to you, Will, but Xander, do you remember off the top of your head what your stoppage time was for your attempt at your FKT this past July?
Yeah, so when we ran together, I said 25 minutes. I think that ended up being a lie. I think it was 23 minutes, and then I slept for 11 minutes.
That's
on
great.
top of that.
That's so good.
And I was really, really pleased with that. It actually ended up being very similar to my 2023, which is like 35 minutes, but no sleep, obviously. So I think you could cut it down a couple more, but honestly, not that much further, unless you're running through everything.
And then, Will, when you were on the trail earlier this year, like, do you feel like were you pretty efficient in terms of moving, like, versus stoppage?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it because the problem. So I'm looking at my Strava file. Problem was like after I like once I was like toast and done. I sat down and called Xander, and I sat down and called other people. It says that I had the Strava file says that I had 2 hours of like non-moving time. I would imagine that's at least an hour of that's got to be like after I stopped. But I don't know. I'd have to go back and do the math out. And that's also in conversations about the 100-mile wilderness, I always like to caveat it with like, I haven't done shit on this route. So like I'm any advice I give or criticisms I give are throwing stones from a glass house. Like until I actually.
You could though. I think that obviously the potential is very much there, and I really think you have a bright future on it. So.
Sure.
And I really value your opinion.
No, I hear that. I'm just saying I haven't yet. It's all theory until you do it.
It's a tough mofo of a route. Like, my gosh, every like I have probably been the most brash about saying what I think is possible on the route, what I think I can do. And even here today, like, I remain humbled. Like, I did take 45-ish minutes off my own time, but I consider it a failure in the sense that I was hoping that it was closer to 26 or 27. I showed you guys my splits. I think my splits were like 26-20 optimistically, and then like 27-30 conservatively. And I clocked 28:43, you know? So it's a super, super humbling route. I have a ton of experience on it, and it still humbles me, and there's still micro failures always baked in. So the other thing I'll say to the audience is just finishing this thing, or actually, sorry, not even just finishing, attempting this thing. You get a massive tip of the cap from me because it's a beast. It's scary. I still lose sleep the night before these things, thinking about having to spend a total night out there by myself with wolves that have clearly been reintroduced into the Maine North Woods, an owl that attacks you at 3 a.m., all this crazy wildlife that pops up, after dark. Moose mating season. Our hunter's going to accidentally shoot you. There's just a lot out there. It takes courage, So just starting this thing is like a tip of the cap from So nothing is a failure.
So true. Nothing is a failure. How do you feel? Obviously, you feel like it's a failure. How do you feel about this run in comparison to the other ones that you've done?
Oh, way better. Like the gear that I brought was so incredibly helpful and an improvement over past years. For context, in 2020 and 2023, I tried to force traditional trail running gear onto this route, and it simply, from an unsupported standpoint, doesn't work. This was the first year that I brought a true fast pack out there, and I was able to efficiently distribute weight across my body. I brought out this soon to be released Ultraspire Traverse pack. It's a 20-liter pack. I have tried basically every single hybrid trail running fast pack on the market. This thing is incredible. I mean, incredible. It's performance enhancing. I think I started out with 20 pounds on my back ish, and this thing just did the job. So it was just stuff like that where I was comfortable out there. Nutrition. I, in years past, have tried to, again, force gels and drink mixes onto this route. And I think you're moving slow enough and you're probably not oxidizing enough carbs per hour to justify some of these bigger gels. So I was taking, Twixes and fast breaks and Three Musketeers out there. And I was taking,
let's go,
Fritos and Cheez-Its and chips and stuff like that. I was eating, I'm not going to say whole foods because those things are processed as hell, but not going into the running store and just taking all gels. It was a really big mix, eating like a real person for the most part. So yeah, from that standpoint, it was great. And I just think that the two biggest things to improve on are playing mental tricks on myself so that I'm not complacent in those last 40, and then just monitoring and being super intentional and pre-planning stops and reorganizing your pack and stuff for critical changes. Because another thing too is when I finished, I think my pack still weighed 12 pounds, and I still had about a third of my food left. So there's this phrase in the thru hiking community: the size of your pack is directly proportional to the size of your fear of the trail, which was true for me. I packed way too much food. I packed way too much technology, external batteries, because I was nervous. I was scared. And next time, it'll be way more stripped down.
Dude, so this was, from a food perspective, it's like a return to simplicity.
Exactly.
Also, you wore a Norda shoe, right? Without a plate?
I wore this time because Brett and I are reviewing shoes on his channel, Conversational Pace. I brought this brand new Brooks Cascadia Elite shoe. It's got this amazing Vibram Mega Grip outsole, so the outsole performed amazing in that terrain. But I only have 100 miles in this shoe. They're all in the 100-mile wilderness, and as you can see, we've got some delamination of the outsole going on. Toe cap is ripped off. There's some punctures in the sidewalls, but matrix upper's totally intact. Yeah, it was a pretty solid shoe. Although this, you can kind of see this is a built-in sort of ankle collar booty. It kind of tries to replace the functionality of a gaiter. And this material was a little bit too flimsy, and it wasn't sitting across my ankle very tightly. So I was getting a lot of debris coming in. I had to take my shoes off a few number of times. So I might wear gaiters next time as well. But yeah.
Does that have a plate in it?
Does that have a plate in it? Yes, I think it has. Yeah, it's got like, I think, again, I don't quote me on this, but I think it has one of those like forked. It's either a nylon or a carbon plate. I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. So not a true return to simplicity. Still,
No, no. But I'm also
still
not
new
wearing
age.
like
Yeah,
Vask hiking boots.
yeah, 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 yeah. Cool. But so, like, obviously, you're also saying like you are going to go back out. So even though you said it was like, it like wasn't dramatic, um, like what, like it's 5 or 6 days later, and you're like, I'm going to go back out, which I feel like normally it takes like at least a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, I think each of us has an arena that we feel compelled to return to every so often because that's where we fine tune and we build our skills and we kind of measure where we're at in the sport. And I mean, I know like in my neck of the woods, living out here in the Mountain West, there are people that run Western states for a decade. Like they get onto the top 10 treadmill and then they just see how far they can kind of get themselves up until they either win or they get knocked off because the sport's advanced too much, stuff like that. And I like being on the 100-mile wilderness treadmill. It constantly challenges me. I was telling you guys earlier in the conversation that the night before this thing, I was scared like a little kid. Like I've now completed this section of trail 5 times and it still scares me. Whereas a race like Cocodona, which is designed to get runners to the finish line. I mean, literally, there's aid stations out there, there's crew, there's pacers. That race exists to get people through the multi-day experience as safely and securely as possible. Like, that's fun in its own way, but the 100-mile wilderness is this place where like you're starting and there's a very real chance that things are going to go haywire, that you're going to fail, etc. And I love those stakes. That's part of the beauty of the FKT scene. It's harder to replicate that in the traditional racing environment. And I guess the other thing I would say is, I just like attempting to give my all here. And another thing I would say is, like, I don't like to like put a personal pronoun towards the FKT. Like, I don't like to say that this is my FKT. That doesn't sound right. I would say that I am holding the FKT and that I am part of an evolutionary chain and I happen to be doing work on this route right now. And my hope is that by doing work on this route, I'm building up and I'm contributing to the knowledge base, and inevitably there's going to be someone coming after me who is better equipped, better trained, better prepared. Maybe they use a little bit of what I've gained and they take more time down on the route. Because at the end of the day, like, it is a competition and it's fun to like will battle with you on this route. Like, that's super fun and that helps me get the best out of myself. But it's also not a thing where it's like I would never say that if someone came and took this record next year before I go back, that I would feel possessive or mad or frustrated. Like, no, we're all a part of the evolutionary chain. First and foremost, I'm just trying to contribute to the knowledge base here and do my best. But yes, I'm holding it right now, and I'm sure there's someone listening who will hold it after me inevitably. Maybe it's Will. Maybe it's Will, or maybe it's you, Xander. Maybe you're coming out and getting into the unsupported.
It's not me. It's not me.
Well, if it's someone who's listening, then it's either me or Xander, because this podcast doesn't have any listeners.
I'm actually surprised there hasn't been. Like, I thought I was listening to your interview with Scott Benneroff. I thought he was going to come out.
Did I? Maybe he mentioned it.
I think he mentioned it. He's like, I might come out in the fall.
Yeah,
he's talked about it a few times, but
he'd be a great candidate.
Yeah, I think he's sick right now. Maybe that derailed his fall plans. But him, like Danny, if he ever pulls the trigger on it, I think could do good things.
Totally.
We'll see.
You could do a late season. You're so fit right now. Well, come on out and do a late season.
My family would be so mad at me. But I mean, I'm trying to. I don't know exactly when I can go back to like full bore. I think it'd be relatively risky for me to do it before like mid-November, and I don't know if that's too late.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I will say this. I think, Xander, I know you have your proprietary 2 p.m. start time, and you've typically gone in the early summertime, but I'm here to say that I think going in the late summer, early fall is a fantastic time, especially if you can get out there before any major rainfall and, leaves are covering the trail. Like I got out there and, it was like a high of 65 or 66 during the day, and it was like high 40s or low 50s at night. The conditions were like fantastic. Only downsides were lack of daylight. So I had, 12 hours of darkness. That was definitely, not performance enhancing, and then the water sources were questionable sometimes, but like, I think it's on a good water year throughout the summer. It's a great time of year to go.
Yeah, I think that the time that I really wouldn't want to go is August, basically. It stays very cool there, like in the mornings, like even through most of July. Um, the game is just like, what do you deal with better, darkness or like humidity? Um, I personally have always dealt with humidity pretty well, so that's kind of motivated my earlier go time. But I think like I think it would be beautiful and like a lot more would be like more pleasurable in the fall.
Yeah. And there was almost no one out there too, which is cool. I think I passed 8 to 10 through hikers during the day. I did see a lot of tents and people at lean-tos at night. That was so hard, by the way, when it gets dark and you see people getting ready for the night, cooking food and getting into their tents. I was like, I want to be there so bad, but I got to keep going. But yeah, it's not too crowded out there this time of year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Were the leaves starting to change at all?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, my parents live down in southern Maine, Portland area, and it's crazy to drive up to northern Maine because they're 2 weeks ahead in the season for sure. Like things were still kind of green down in the Portland area, and leaves were definitely turning, up there in the
Hmm.
Monson-Millinocket corridor. So pretty cool.
What do you feel like you like? Obviously, you learned a few things like about like the actual running of this route. Did you like learn anything like about you as an athlete, like your strengths, your weaknesses out there?
That I'm built for multi-day. Like I finished the thing, and don't get me wrong, I was tired, and like I hopped in Chris Shane's car and slept a little bit on the way back to Monson, but you know, drank a Celsius and drove home. And like I I think that like I love that 2, 3, 4 day scene, and I do pretty well on no sleep, and I can go 3 miles an hour for a long time.
mm,
Like I can do the unsexy mileage for a long time. So yeah, I'm one of those weird people that I like doing like the shorter stuff. Like I love doing like marathon and under. Like I love doing the training for marathon, and then like I'm not great from like marathon to 100 mile, but then things get interesting again after 100 mile.
dude, it sounds like the main AT is coming down the pike.
Yeah, I mean the
Christ.
the issue with that route is just I mean obviously like the finish if you're going northbound Katahdin is incredible, but like the logistics of the start and finish are insane because you have to hike to that whatever Carlow Coal shelter on the Maine New Hampshire line, which is a journey in and of itself. And then when you finish, you still have to descend 5 miles and 4,000 feet off a mountain. So
Sure.
like the elegance of it is the elegance of the start finish leaves something to be desired now that I think about it more.
I found out today that it's only like a 2.5 mile hike in to the border, apparently.
Really?
That's what I was interviewing someone earlier today actually who did the New Hampshire section
Who
of
are you,
AT.
who are you chatting with?
Amber Constant.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like 2,500 feet of vert to get up there, but it's
Yeah.
only like 2.5 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you don't want to do the main AT, then there's a trail in Vermont that needs a local to come back and take it.
You're not. Are you going to do it?
No, absolutely not.
Are you done with the long trail?
There's I for about 2 weeks, I really wanted to, go avenge my losses, but like I quickly realized that there's like nothing for me to gain on the long trail. Like I don't think I'm gonna take off another 7 hour chunk, and so like if I took off 2.5 hours, like no one's gonna. That's just marginal gains, and then like Tara could probably come back and take another hour off that. Like it's at some point in FKTs, it's just like you're playing the marginal gain game, and it's not, it's not really a significant break.
I think as a spectator and a fan, I think you've contributed tremendously to the lore of that trail and to the performance history on the trail. And I think you said it perfectly, like how much motivation can you draw, even if you get the record again? I'm not, because again, I think you could get the record, but like to go through that much pain and suffering and training to get another hour, like, I don't know. I think you've already,
Right.
you've proven yourself. Like it's, yeah.
Well,
I
yeah, and if the goal,
I should be thinking the same way about the 100 Mile Wilderness. Like, what's one more hour? Like, it was a great experience,
well, it depends what the goal is. Like, if I were to go back to the long trail, the goal, like the primary driver would be, I want the record back. And that's just setting yourself up for pain, because even if I set a record, like someone's going to break it again, whether it's a year or 10 years from now. And then it'll just be, I'll be in the same situation. If it's truly like a passion for the route, I think it's a little bit different. Like I love the long trail. I think it's the trail where I got the most growth as an athlete, but I don't think the long trail is not my favorite place in the world. Like if I had a passion project route, it'd probably be like the Diartissima or something. Not the long trail. Not that I'm going to do the Diartissima, but I'm just saying, like, I think your motivations for the 100 Mile Wilderness really lend itself more to multiple efforts than mine for the long trail do.
Yeah. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I almost feel like there comes a time on each of these routes where you turn into sort of like a caretaker for it, like a Warren Doyle type, where if anyone comes across paths with you and they're interested in giving it a go, you just unload as much information as you can. And that's the next best thing, is like, I've been there, I've done that, and now it's time to just be this like bearer of amazing knowledge, and how much of it can I give away?
Yeah, I felt that like this spring when people were.
Do you guys feel like it should be proprietary? Like, Xander, how do you feel about this? Like, proprietary, like, how do you, in terms of knowledge sharing for these FKTs, is it proprietary, or is it like, should it be open sourced?
I personally turn on the fire hose when somebody asks me about the 100 Mile Wilderness. Like I like the open source thing, but it could go either way. I mean, I think for me on the 100 Mile Wilderness, I finished this summer and felt immediately like my work is done here. So there's like nothing to be gained by me, like to like hold it secret. I think like if you have a sense that like you still need a competitive advantage, then I like get why people do it. I think the rule, like the default, should be like open source, but
Yeah.
I understand reasons to keep it close to the chest in some circumstances.
Will's smiling.
Yeah. Well, we had a very interesting conversation about this earlier. Xander and I did earlier in the year about how perhaps not sharing information, like a trend of not sharing information becoming more popular, is a mark of the professionalization of the sport as people start to make a living off it. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that means that it's becoming more serious. But I just, as someone who's never going to make a living off FKTs, I lean more towards Xander's opinion of just like giving the open source information. Like it's, I'm competitive with this stuff, but again, it's like not my life. However, the only thing I'll say is like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So like, if you're someone who doesn't share information and then DM me asking for information, like I'm not going to give it to you. Like, well, how I'll interact with you the way you interact with the community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's all interesting. I like what you said, though. I mean, that are we increasingly coming to a world where this stuff gets closed off, privatized, because people are making a living off of it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's also a line to be drawn. The like Strava files, right? Like you can like turn it on to like get it verified, but then you could like immediately turn it off. And I think I totally understand the trend towards secrecy and like that being a sign of the like professionalism, but it goes too far if like people can't like see the thing that got you the record and then like reverse engineer that,
Yeah.
right? Like from the data. Like
Yeah.
in no other sport is that really allowed. Like you're allowed to see the game tape, you know?
Do you guys want to, I don't know if we have time, but do you guys want to, like, for someone that goes and gets this next, should we throw out some ideas for how to prepare for it and execute it to, bring this down to 27, 26, 25, etc.? I can go
yeah,
first.
go
I have
for
some
it.
ideas. I mean, I don't think anyone, like, I'm not sure anyone has properly trained for an unsupported FKT on this route yet. Like, Will, I would love to see how you would do on this route now that you've had that block for Tour under you, because I think that that block for Tour would actually bode really well for the 100-mile wilderness. So what I mean by that is I want to see someone put together 7 to 8 consecutive weeks climbing at least 20,000 feet a week and putting in at least 14 to 15 hours time on feet consecutively and getting on that type of terrain almost every day. And if not, replicating it in the gym, whatever. I would also say lifting weights. Like, this route is so freaking plyometric. You need so much strength. We've heard Jack Kenzel talk about how if he could go back and do the White Mountains 100, he would be lifting a lot more weights for that thing. I think so. You need to lift weights for this route. I really do. So get strong from a weightlifting standpoint. And then I think leaning towards skimping on gear and nutrition a little bit in the name of pack weight, because you can shave so much time just by being as light as possible for this thing. And then just like having it on your watch, the plans for waypoints and stoppage, and maybe taking some liberties with water. But those are like the overheads for me. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
I think like a full scout or a training camp on the route is like crucially important. Knowing what's coming next is like the biggest superpower you can have on that trail, like most trails. I agree that like lifting weights would be great. I disagree about getting on that terrain every day. I think that that's a trap. But I do think I think that people need to focus more on running. And if you had time for one thing above like the running time, I would actually do plyometrics and not weights. Because I think that you need to be like really bouncy. You don't need a ton of like top end strength. Um, so yeah, that's my take. I agree with like the volume, and then the logistics. You just have to think through your stops, like what ahead of time. You have to have like a system for it, and I think that system can vary for people. But like you should practice it, like and like time yourself and get faster at it in your prep. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think as blast. Well, first of all, Xander hates specificity. He hates being on trail. Uh,
Yeah, I think I. I think
Central Park mile repeats got him 2 FKTs on this trail.
no,
So what do
it's
we
true.
know?
It's true. I kind of go the other way. Like I think lifting. I'd lift heavy more than plyometrics, but that's just I guess personal opinion. I think it would help with especially with the first half of the route. I think that doing, I agree with everything you said. Well, I agree with everything you said, Finn, about volume. I think uh, a downhill workout would probably help a lot with the latter half of this route and like, keeping your legs strong enough to continue running. Like 3 weeks out or whatever. As much as I hate this because it's sacrilegious to my ethos, I would maybe consider doing less liquid nutrition on the 100 Mile Wilderness, just because if you don't, the less liquid nutrition you do, the more you can just fill up a filter cap and go, and you don't even have to filter because you can just drink out of the filter cap. That could turn a 5 minute refill into a 10-second refill because you just fill up the flask and go. And then, yeah, I mean, like Xander said, like really knowing every single spot you're going to get water, and then at that spot, what you need to do, like if you need to filter anything, what you need to get out of your pack, having everything organized. So, that takes a minimal amount of time. I just think, like Bill always says, the easiest way to lose a record on an ultra is to not move. And so
Amen.
minimizing that non-moving time is pretty big.
Xander,
I have another thing. Speed ladder.
Go ahead.
Speed ladder. And Carolinas. Don't forget Carolinas.
I mean, I genuinely think it helped.
No, I think Carolinas are great.
Xander, I want to hear you talk more about the Scout, especially the number of days you would do it in, and if you're doing this in prep for an unsupported attempt, like in terms of cumulative time on the Scout, should you be running at pace, under pace for goal? Like, talk about that.
I think that you should be running pretty much at like the effort that you want to be running at for the race. Because I think it's like long enough that doing like a 6 to 8 hour day at race effort is like a big stimulus, but it's not backbreaking. And over the course of 3 days, I've done the Scout twice in 3 days now. Like that third day, like feels pretty bad, like in a similar way to like miles 60, 70, 80 of the actual like 100 mile attempt. You have to give yourself plenty of time after to like truly recover. That being said, like I felt like I could go back to training within like 3 or 4 days after completing the Scout, doing it in this like race effort mode. So I would end up running faster than like my planned splits on the Scout, basically taking that time and scaling it back by 5 to 10%. I think it would work for unsupported as well. I don't see why it wouldn't. Yeah, and you'd actually get the benefit there of like being able to pick and choose like stop points that you want to like replicate like your race system with. Whereas like I would like meet my dad and like we would kind of hang out for like 15, 20 minutes or something. We didn't practice it a ton.
Okay. Super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but I actually am a huge believer. Like, I think that you guys are both wrong about the weights. I think it's plyometrics and speed ladder, like no doubt.
Well, I mean, because one of the things that I was thinking about in the overnight parts was how I couldn't shuffle, because you need to have a certain amount of hip extension and power to jump up onto these roots and rocks that are in front of you to maintain pace. Like if I needed to run 4 miles an hour, I needed to put out the effort, even though it wasn't reflected in the grade adjusted pace. I needed to really put out like 5 mile an hour effort because of like what was underfoot in front of me. And it felt more like a function of power and strength and less anything aerobic, or turnover based. And I feel, again, this is just my personal thing. I feel like I would get that in the gym or on a weighted hike type thing than I would doing the speed stuff. And I love speed, so I mean, you wouldn't have to sell me too hard on converting to it for this, but I just don't know how I would solve that problem through getting faster.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm talking about is not necessarily like trying to get faster. It's like doing like the box jumps and sort of the
Okay.
like the split squats and
Yeah.
yeah, like that kind of plyometric. And then, but like you're saying,
So
part of my
you do want to get in
like
the gym. You do want to get in the gym, but
yes,
just
but
on that
I
stuff.
didn't like lift heavy weights. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not deadlifting.
I think there's
Yeah.
there's pretty good science about compound heavy lifting being incredible for fatigue resistance and injury prevention and durability. Like, and I don't want to remind you of the double knee brace, but perhaps if you did some more squats, I'm just saying.
Dude, I think that there are other ways to get the fatigue resistance.
Sure.
But like you're saying, like I actually part of my like training was doing a lot of running with like a weighted pack.
I think that
And
helps
so
a lot.
so that might have gotten me some of the distance.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to make sure I said it here in a public forum. Obviously, we've run together, and I've told you offline. But that your latest, I mean, both FKTs were amazing, but this latest one, 23:10 or whatever, just incredible. And for anyone that knows, super impressive. Quarter unsupported, just incredible. So thanks for setting a great bar.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to. I want other people to go after it. I think it would be really fun to watch. Really, really fun.
Yeah.
And congrats to you too, breaking the unsupported 29-hour barrier. It's been at 29 for a long time.
For a long time, 5 years.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Yeah, so it's good to get that monkey off the back. And like I have no doubt that there are a lot. I mean, we've all talked together, us three, about how we think table stakes for unsupported is like closer to 27. So I think without too much of a strain, and if you go through the programming that us three just brainstormed on the pod, you can do it. And I mean, Will, I'd love to see you go for it. There's a bunch of other people out there, people that have just completed that Whites 100 route that Drummond put together. Like, there's a lot of great talent and candidates in the Whites and in Maine to go do it. And if anyone is out there that wants to chat, brainstorm, whatever, put my number in the show notes or something. I love, like you said, Xander, like I kind of like overflow with excitement talking about it. So happy to knowledge share.
By the way, just for anyone out, the like logistical thing, I know 100 Mile Wilderness can be difficult logistically. If you're thinking, oh, I'd love to do 100 Mile Wilderness, but I live in New Hampshire or Vermont, I don't have anyone who could like pick me up at the end. You can pay Shaw's Hiker Hostel to pick you up at A-Ball Bridge and bring you back to your car at the beginning. So don't let that be the reason you don't do it.
Yeah.
Like if you get the FKT, it's worth the whatever, like 90 or $100 or whatever it is to pay them to, pick you up.
And to layer it on, if you want to do one of these hybrid self-supported style things, Shaw's will also do food drops for you at Joe Mary Road and a bunch of other places,
True.
in the KI network there. And I would also say, that reminds me, I would encourage anyone that wants to delve into the culture of this trail, go to Shaw's and go hang out with Poet and Hippie Chick and all the thru hikers there. It's free inspiration. Every time I go and do this, I spend the night there and hang out, and they're incredible. Yeah, like it's just, there's an incredible, it's crazy that there's actually like I mean, and I know you guys have been to Shaw's, but like there's a full-fledged gear shop there. I have a Poet's Gear Emporium shirt. Got Hyperlight gear there. They've got ultras. They've got all the goods. They've got all the goods there, and so they're knowledgeable. They've got good gear if you need it. Bed, food. The pancake breakfast is amazing. Go check it all out.
That pancake breakfast, deadly before an FKT.
Deadly,
but
so good after. If you finish at 4 a.m., drive back over Route 11, stop at 7 a.m. just in time for the breakfast, and then head home.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Can I ask one more question? Maybe this is for you, Will. I know you're probably going to do an episode on it, but like, what were your just initial thoughts on the tour experience and like taking your talents to like the height of the multi-day racing scene?
Yeah, I will do an episode on it. I have a lot of thoughts, but tour is an incredible experience. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before. You know, like 1,400 people out there on the same route doing a 200 miler is insane. On the terrain that it is insane. The Alps are incredible. The climbs are huge. 4, 5, 6,000 foot climbs. The descents are just as big. The little mountain towns and communities are like second to none. I think that's like the best part is like people, you know, you're out there training and someone will stick their head out the window and be like, "Hey, are you training for the tour?" So, you know, that whole community is incredible. In terms of the race itself, I mean, again, it's like, I said this on Instagram, it like feels cheap for me to like it feels cheap for me to like really theorize about how I could have done, because like I didn't. But I think New England translates well with, you know, steep climbs. It's far, like it has its moments of technicality, especially around the coals, but overall far less technical than New England, far more runnable, or far more runnable. Is that the right way to say that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think it does translate really well.
If you said it, because and again, you know, we know your talent and your resume. If you set aside like what happened at that particular event, do you feel like going into this thing, did you feel intimidated by the competition, or did you feel like you belonged?
Like I felt intimidated by it until I did the scouting hike, and one, you know, I'm always sort of intimidated by a trail until I actually get out on it and see what I can do at the pace that I'm very comfortable knowing that I can do forever. And so once I went out on the scouting hike and did, you know, made my splits out, I was very confident that I should be competing. But you know, maybe someday in the future I'll see if that's right.
You're gonna go back, do you think, at some point?
I think it's gonna be really hard to find the time for at least the next 4 years. So, you know, maybe after that. But yeah, it'll be a while.
But maybe Cocodona.
Maybe Cocodona. It depends. I don't have a spot in Cocodona yet.
Podcasts are good places to put the word out. Just float. You never know who's listening.
Just let it simmer. Cocodona, I think, I was talking to Xander about this. I think I'd actually have a harder time competing for a win at Cocodona than a win at Tour, because Tour is just like so much closer to what I'm used to racing. I mean, I'd put in a Cocodona specific block and see, you know, I'm sure it would translate, but Tour is just like, so, you know, 200 miles with 80,000 vert is like the New Hampshire 48 essentially. It's just so similar.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Exciting, cool problems to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I come back to the idea that this sport is so attractive because so much is uncertain and everything hangs, and that you can be so prepared and you can have great days and things can fall apart. I personally love that pressure and uncertainty.
Yeah. It's high stakes out here in the competitive walking world.
Totally.
Thrives under pressure, just
That's
like
right.
a diamond.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you both for taking the time. Xander, it sounded like you were about to say something. Again.
Well, yeah, just congratulating Finn on another great run and your fastest one ever, new record.
And now,
really, really amazing.
You put Xander to shame. You once again have regained your spot as the person with the most FKTs on the route. So
no way.
No.
Suck it, Xander.
No.
3-2. Game 6 next.
That's right.
Oh, devastating. Brutal. Maybe that'll get me back out. I don't know. Work's not done.
Yeah, people don't know this, but the first time I was out there, I did it was unsupported, but it became self-supported because 20 miles in, I fell on the fourth mountain bog and and dislocated these two fingers, and I ran into the two hikers up the trail that reset it for me. And
Were you prepared to hike the last 80 miles with dislocated fingers?
oh gosh, I feel like I should plead the fifth there. I was really nervous because I could see like blood pooling and stuff, and there was just an incredible amount of pressure. And so I think it was fate. I was ready to take a supported designation there because it did feel, I don't know even why they called it self-supported because I got support, you know?
Well, it's because it wasn't planned. It was like some random person you met.
Unplanned. It was it was very serendipitous.
Yeah.
So that's the third.
3-2. What a joke.
3-2.
This is crazy.
Thanks for the chance to talk about it. You guys know I love the 100-mile wilderness, and I do want to reiterate that everything for me is open source, and happy to talk with anyone. If anyone reaches out, give them my number. And yeah, obviously I hope you go for it soon, but if not you, anyone else there, let's get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Congrats again. And everyone go listen to the Single Track podcast if you don't already, because, you know, I'm really going to add to your listener base.
It's not the Northeast, but it's okay.
All right, thanks guys.